Konene, so jana kuna vile Ruto alibaki amedo the State of the Nation address and ilikuwa very interesting because he said some really nice stuff, but tutakam to your story, but before that let's see what had happened before, because what had happened before is one of the reasons why I'm like, I don't trust you. And apart from me not trusting you, I feel like as a leader you're being irresponsible. So why do I think that Ruto iko irresponsible? Wacha ni kutake back. Kuna hii headline ilibaki nimecheki and the headline was of something called the hourly news wave. Alafu ilikuwa ni Zimbabwean businessman Wicknell Chivayo with President Ruto at State House Nairobi. Then I was like, nah, this can't be real. Not right now, especially considering what I've seen today. Not right now. So kuna shindwa what I'd seen. What I'd seen was another article that had appeared on kenyans.co.ke, and the article ilikuwa imesema IEBC receives the first batch of 10 pallets containing ballot papers printed in Greece at a cost of 27 million. So tashindwa like, what does this have to do with Ruto? We'll come back to that. And what does this have to do with like Chivayo? Tutakam to that. But ukitaka kujua how much ama how surprised I was, I ended up actually asking Grok kama hii photo ya Ruto na Chivayo ni real. So ilikuwa nikauliza at Grok, when was this photo taken? Grok ikaanza, yani ikaansa, the photo depicts Wicknell Chivayo's meeting with President Ruto at State House in Nairobi. Chivayo confirmed on X that it occurred yesterday, November 19th, 2025, during a courtesy call focused on renewable energy and Pan-African investment. His post today includes similar images from the visit. I was like, hell to the no. This has just been confirmed. So, as usual, what did I do? I decided to go to Wicknell Chivayo's Instagram. And Wicknell Chivayo, like one of the things that you have to know about this character is he's one of those flashy characters. You're one of those characters that remind me of Hush Puppy. And you know, my views on flashy money, inakuwaga mostly money that comes from dubious sources. So, ukienda kwa nini yake, unacheki like there's some office hapo, alafu kuna hii post ingine iko visionary leadership. Alafu nachiki, yesterday I once again had the privilege of paying a courtesy call on His Excellency President William Samoei Ruto at State House in Nairobi. It remains an exceptional pleasure to rub shoulders with eminent leaders, especially those of kingly character and continental influence. I consider myself highly favored to carry the grace that allows me to sit with such a leader who upholds faith as the yardstick of leadership. Don't forget, this is Africa. We always have to use the faith card. Sitasoma hii nonsense yote because niko sure by right now you're losing your cool. Like, mwafa na bonga jua nini? What is wrong with Ruto meeting this guy? Lakini tamalizana, I humbly salute His Excellency and I'm eternally grateful for always creating time in his demanding schedule to mentor and impart wisdom in the most generous of ways. I remain highly inspired by your leadership, which stands as a beacon of an Africa that is built by Africans for Africans. Asante sana, Mr. President. And then you see the photos za huu Wicknell Chivayo akiwa na Ruto. And you have to wonder, there's even a place where Ruto ameweka mkono hivi and the guy is not even saying hi to the president. And yeah, so why am I complaining? The reason I'm complaining is if I know the people that you hang around, I can start to think about you and the sort of person that you are. So look at it this way. Kenya kumekuwa na times, kumekuwa na place, tukiangalia place kama Kilimani, kumekuwa na time inasemekana that Kilimani is a place of wash. So the process, so tukisema that Kilimani is a place of wash, what used to happen is you had all these flashy people in Kilimani and they do flashy stuff. And eventually wanapatikana inasemekana that the money that they've not earned in the right way. And that's where Wicknell Chivayo comes in. This guy is not known for good things. But if you search for Wicknell Chivayo, the sort of images that you'll see are the images of Wicknell Chivayo meeting Museveni, Wicknell Chivayo meeting Samia Suluhu Hassan. Right now, for most East Africans, Samia Suluhu stands as the symbol of evil. And you are like, for a lot of East Africans, like what happened in Tanzania is something that we can't even believe happened. So with that in mind, yes, I had to like, so the other coincidence, because now maybe unashindo like, why is Moaf keep like Nabonga J story? Why did I bring up IEBC? The reason I bring up IEBC ni, if you go through the history of Wicknell Chivayo, the first thing that comes ni stories are scandals. Na stories are scandals za nini? Isn't stories are scandals za corruption. And this guy has been involved in a corruption scandal that involved what? Election materials. And for him to have been in Kenya on Wednesday, and then on the same Wednesday at night, election materials are delivered in Kenya, it makes me feel some type of way. And apart from that, if you check out his history and you see the fact that amekuja hapa and he's talking about development and such, if you check out his history, he come to projects for the government, what do you find? Corruption. So wacha tuangalie stories za elections. So ikam kwa the election scandals, ilikuwa ni the scandal yake ilikuwa ni in a center on a tender to supply election materials to the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, ZEC, for the 2023 general elections. The South African investigative non-profit organization Open Secrets alleged that Chivayo acted as an agent facilitator for a South African printing firm named Ren-Form. The firm was reportedly awarded the contract to print ballot papers and other election materials. Let's hear you. Ballot papers and other election materials. So this guy reaches Kenya on Wednesday. On Thursday, election materials arrive in Kenya. Then ikaendelea. Alleged kickbacks and financial probes. The controversy Nini ilikuwa involved a significant sum, with reports citing a 570 million rands corruption scandal. Allegations surfaced that Chivayo received substantial amounts, any kickback amounts, reportedly up to 800 million rands. Contact kujua how much 800 million rands is. That's around maybe 6 billion Kenyan shillings on the lower side. These are the kickbacks that he got. So this is my question. This is the sort of information that the president knows. And the president knows that right now, Chivayo is under investigation with the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission. Inaitwa ZAC. So mse, juu ya corruption za elections, yuko under investigations. So this is how inasemekana he made his money. He made his money through government tenders. And not just government tenders, but through corruption. Like, for example, another corruption scandal that he has, and this is information that, of course, a president has. And this is why I wonder, how do you, as a president of a country, meet a character who is involved in corruption? Nika mimi, like I'm a podcaster, na saizi ukianza kuniona nikihang out na watu wa wash, utasema, huu mwaf jo, siku hizi ni, rada ni gani jo? Like, say, what is he doing? So this guy, first of all, so his election materials, he's known for that. The election materials are so sensitive, especially in a country like Kenya, because I think even kuna mother flani alikuwa interviewed. I think wanaitwa Anderitu, ule alikuwa gawa nini commission ya I think ilikuwa ni political something. Political registration something. Okay. Mother, political tribunal. Political parties tribunal. Yes. She was being interviewed because right now she's one of the IEBC commissioners, and she said the reason why Kenyan elections cost a lot is because of dishonesty. We are not honest people, najua. And with that in mind, if you had to ask people like, what do you think is going to happen in 2027? Is there a possibility of rigging? Kenyans will say yes. And then what do we see? We see our president with a character that's involved in printing election materials. And that's not only it. And because we are going to come and talk about the State of the Nation address, but I had to start with this because this happened before the State of the Nation address. So another scandal that this guy was involved in ilikuwa inaitwa the Gwanda Solar Scandal. So kwa the Gwanda Solar Scandal inasemekana in 2013 Intratech Zimbabwe in partnership with a Chinese firm was awarded tender by the state-owned Zimbabwe Power Company to build a 100 megawatt solar power plant in Gwanda, Matabeleland South. The total value of the contract was approximately $172.8 million. So if you're wondering how much $172.8 million is, this is how I'd put it. $10 million is around 1.3 billion Kenyan shillings. So that would be like 200 million would be around how much? 20 something billion? Yes? I think yes, we'll be working out like a 20 something billion. So this $172.8 million would come to around, let's put it at a flat figure of 20 billion Kenyan shillings. And what happened when this guy got the contract? Nasemekana, Intratech received a substantial advance payment from ZPC, while the total advance was reported by a ZPC official to be around 51.7. The figure they mostly cited as the payment for actual work is $5 million. So there's okay, maybe what I've not explained is what happened. So inasemekana, this person, they received this money and they did not deliver anything. Your place where the Gwanda Solar was supposed to happen nowadays is described as barren land, like there is nothing that's going on there. So this guy received $75 million, which maybe you can dismiss, but that's around 650 million Kenyan shillings. That's money that if you get would be life-changing for you. That's money if I get, damn, I'd start living, because right now I'm literally surviving. I have to wake up, work, whatever. I'd want a situation whereby whether I work or I don't, Nini, I can just live. Naweza kuwa tu leo niende wapi? Wacha niende Urusi. Urusi watanipeleka Ukraine pigane vita. Hapana, Urusi siendi. Niende wapi? Niende Ureno. Nasikia maka anasema tu nataka kwenda kwa nchi inaanza na UR. Niende Ureno. Unaniona huko Masai za Portugal. That's how much this money is. But you see, this guy has made his money from corruption. That's basically it. Because if you have to check out his history, inasemekana that he actually started out as a clerk. And somehow from being a clerk, he became this multi-millionaire that he is. And this multi-millionaire has come courtesy of corruption scandals. So you have the Gwanda Solar Scandal and you have the election material scandal. And now we've seen him in TZ. Most probably he's the one who printed election materials at TZ. Seen him in Uganda. Most probably ended a print election materials at Uganda. I've now seen him in Kenya. And we see our president associating with such a person who comes with a lot of corruption scandals. And that's what I have a problem with. Najua, that's what, like, show me the people you hang around. Like, the president himself had asked, if this was some random Kenyan who's accused of selling drugs, would the president want to hang out with that person? No, he wouldn't. Why? Because that taints the image, and the office of the presidency has to have a certain level of respect that we can't go below this. And that's the reason why story ya Buddha kumcheki na the president imefanya ni nimego on this Nini. So yes, kauko anajua Wicknell Chivayo, it's a very questionable character. Right now, super rich, goes out like everywhere that he goes, he just hands out cash. Why? Because if you've not earned the money, what's going to happen? Of course, you're going to use it as as possible. So inasemekana pia countries mingi sana around Africa, he's been doing those funny deals of his. And yes, he met the president, and then the next day the election materials zikakuja. Ekonene, nimeinterrupt show kukuremind juu ya Len-Fi. Kama uko US ama Canada na unataka kutuma do Kenya, register kwa Len-Fi ukitumia promo code Ekonene. Hii itakuguarantee $20 cashback on your first $100 transaction. Alafu pia time una register, make sure umetick the 2 check boxes za notifications ndio ukireceive info about amazing offers through newsletters. Na pia usijali, Len-Fi hawatumagi hizi letters za, yani unajua, like ma messages za kipumbavu. Pia usisahau, every time una transact $50 and above una earn points. Na the more una transact, the more points you earn and you can redeem them as cash ile time unatuma pesa. Alafu pia kitu nanibamba kabisa ni saizi ukitumia Lemfi mzabaki umelipa pay bills na till numbers directly. That means mzabaki umehandle bills za maparo wako ukiwa hizo maside za States ama maside za Canada. Alafu pia we mwenyewe as a Lemfi user baki umetafuta ile button imeandikwa get USD $20, ubaki umeinvite mabeste zako, na ukiinvite mabeste zako on their first $100 transaction unapata pesa ngapi? $20 cashback. So unangoja nini? Baki umechangamka, ingia Lemfi. Lemfi, international payments for everyone. Eko nene. So tukitoka hapo, now let's look at the State of Nation address, and I had to start with this because the president met this questionable character and then came to give us these stories. And the stories that the president is giving us, if actually implemented, would make Kenya a better country. Unajua, mimi nasemaga like, as much as I criticize the president, I always want what's the best for Kenya. And one of the things that he spoke about, of course, ilikuwa stories are dueling of roads. But before that, nataka tucheki hii story. Alafu, tubaki go through some of the steps that he was saying and see how realistic they are. And and as I look at this, I'll be wondering, is Wicknell Chivayo benefiting from any of this? But okay, wacha tusikize.
In keeping with his newfound narrative of transforming the country into a first world nation, President William Ruto appointed his third State of the Nation address for Vision Declaration session. President Ruto drawing lessons from Asian tigers, Singapore, Japan, South Korea and Malaysia. Ruto's first pillar is built on human capital development, which seeks to improve the quality of education, skills development, scientific training and innovation capacity.
That makes a lot of sense. Najua, for Kenya to advance and for Kenya to go to the next level, we have to be able to produce. We can't just be an economy that imports everything. Najua, there's the sort of people that nishasikiaga watu wakijoke that even we import inaitangwa ni match boxes. Najua inakuwaga like ridiculous. I don't think that's true, but I'm just showing how ridiculous it is that we don't have the capacity. And for you to have the capacity to produce, you need better education. So that makes sense.
We must actualize the National Research Fund, moving from the current 0.8% of GDP to 2% of GDP. This leaves us with a shortfall today of 180 billion.
The president's second pillar targets food security for a country that largely depends on rain-fed agriculture. To correct that, the president seeks to build 50 mega dams, 200 medium and small-scale dams, and others to boost water harvesting, storage and irrigation.
That also makes a lot of sense, because kuna clip ilikuwa na go round ya the president akisema we don't need the rain, we need water. And I remember people looped it and I was like, that also makes sense. We don't need rain, we need water. Why? Not all water comes from rain, if that makes sense. Water can be recycled, water can what? Of course, we can also harness the rain. But tayari kuna maji, and if we had dams that can, of course, kuna tutasema hiyo maji ya dams itaenda nini. But yes, water can be harvested, water can be stored. Kunaweza kuwa na irrigation, boreholes zinabaki zimedigiwa. Like there's a lot of stuff that can happen, and that would help us be in a situation whereby we can still produce food. Nachiki, unapataga there are countries that don't get as much rain as Kenya and still are food sufficient. So the fact that we are not food sufficient means that something needs to be done. So ikikam to history as irrigation pia, ile where after we've harvested this water, we can use it for irrigation. We don't have to, kama ile, like what happens with most African farmers, subsistence farming is ngoja mvua itanyesha kesho. Okay, sawa, acha niweke mahindi leo. Alafu mvua ikuji. Na bado mahindi walikufa lakini wacha tuendelee kuomba siku moja mvua itanyesha. We can't do that. That's not sustainable. So wacha tusikize.
Irrigation.
We can no longer allow the clouds to determine whether our people eat or not. Not only to secure our food supply, but to bring at least 2.5 million additional acres under irrigation within the next 5 to 7 years.
The president's target is to raise the country's capacity by more than 3 times to reach 10,000 megawatts of power by 2032.
We have to generate an additional 10,000 megawatts in the next 7 years so as to move our country to the next level and undertake the transition necessary for our growth.
Okay, so that also makes sense because kumekuwa na history ya debate ya ilikuwa ni data centers zilalisema that sijui they needed I think was 2,500 megawatts or something. I don't remember the figure and we could not generate that. So if he's saying that we need another 10,000 megawatts, there's nothing wrong with that. That's something that I support. With all these things, we still go back to the Wicknell Chivayo thing where how is supposed to trust you if you're dealing with questionable characters. Like this Wicknell Chivayo character was supposed to help out with a solar plant. He never did anything. How is supposed to know that now that you're talking about PPPs, public-private partnerships, how is supposed to know that the Wicknell Chivayos are not the private? And how is supposed to trust them? Yeah? Wacha tuendelee.
President Ruto wrapping up his Kenyan dream with transport and logistics by maintaining world-class seaports, airports, highways and digital corridors and see the dualling of 21 major roads.
This infrastructure drive will also include extending the standard gauge railway from Naivasha to Kisumu and eventually to Malaba.
So hii history ya this standard gauge railway, tulikuwa na Irongo Nyakera hapa and he talked about how even it was Uhuru's plan to extend it till Kisumu, but economically for Kenya it needs to be extended to up to Kisumu, not Malaba, because with Malaba alikuwa nasema like it's going to take away some form of business from Kenya, but if itaishia kama Kisumu itamake Kisumu ikuwe like a clearing port and then sijui watu wa Uganda anaweza kuwa nakam kuchukua vitu zao. There's an explanation that he gave me, but this should have happened and such a thing happening of course is good. Why? Because Kenyan roads, you have to understand there's a certain level of comfort that comes with traveling to place kama Mombasa using a train. Why? Because trains are safer than roads. That's just the Kenyan reality. Alafu people misbehave on Kenyan roads, so you can end up being stuck in traffic for how many hours. So kuna hizo things that I understand and I'm there like, I fully support this. So this is also a good thing, especially all the roads that he talked about. That was a good thing. So I'm seeing all these things that the president is talking about, but still, as I say all these things would turn us into a first world country. First world countries are just they're just too far ahead. Hii ni kama say like the richest man in Kenya kusema that I'm one of the richest men in the world. Yes, you might be, but really, like if Bill Gates was to wake up with your money, he'd want to off himself. Not even Bill Gates. Tusienda mbali. If Jay-Z, who's a rapper, was to wake up with your money, Jay-Z would be like, damn, what happened? So it's the same thing. Like Kenya is too far. And if you want to know how far Kenya is, wacha tutasikia when Ruto finally says how much we need.
And that exercise, ladies and gentlemen, is beginning in January, in just 2 months.
However, the ambitious plan won't come cheap. President Ruto estimating it will require up to 5 trillion shillings to achieve.
Estimates indicate that achieving these 4 priorities will require at least 5 trillion. This is undeniably a large sum. Honorable members.
So, Vilalsama, this is undeniably a large sum. Somehow they felt like they need to cheer for him and tell him that he needs to get a second term. But before to check the cheering and the second term, 5 trillion shillings is around $40 billion. That means that Elon Musk, as an individual, can fund that. He bought Twitter for that. He can fund that and apparently turn us into a first world country. That's how far from a first world country we are. That one freaking guy can fund hizo projects zetu zote. And that's just ridiculous, man. And it shows you, of course, to come back to your story, making education better and what, because the only true way to make wealth in innovation and providing solutions where there are none. So that's why I'm saying, like, yes, I might disagree with some of the message, but I like the messenger maybe, but I agree with the message. Like, we need to do something. But yeah, I don't know why this turned into a two-term thing.
The president's presentation getting a standing ovation from the MPs, a majority drawn from the broad-based corner who lauded his visionary plan. The president then turned to his critics, who have already dismissed the plan as a pipe dream.
Our critics, the high priests of eternal pessimism, who criticize without responsibility and tear down without offering alternatives.
Me personally, I think I'm skeptical. I'm not criticizing, and I'm skeptical. Why? Because having lived in this country long enough, I know that no one does anything for service. So if it's the president, I expect that there has to be a way that he's benefiting. And if the president is benefiting, tuseme come to roads, the cabinet secretary wa roads atataka kubenefit. Come to health, watataka kubenefit. Come to so inakuwaga what's called budgeted corruption, and with that there is nowhere you can go. But if it's a situation whereby everything is accounted for, because like right now you'll hear the president say that we need 5 trillion, but you'll see when eventually, if you're able to do all these things, we'll end up spending even 15 trillion. Why? Because money is going to be stolen along the way. And why will money be stolen? Because the president will allow it to be stolen. How will the president allow it to be stolen? Because the president, even through the company that he keeps company of people who are known to steal taxpayers' money from their countries, and they can come and visit him. So what's to stop a person from stealing taxpayers' money kutoka kwetu naendea visit akina Museveni and everyone else? Because even that Chivayo guy still visits Mnangagwa, who's the president of Zimbabwe, even after stealing from Zimbabwe. So this is the reason why I'm skeptical. I'm not criticizing. I'd love this to happen. I'd love that dual road ya kwenda mpaka Kisumu. I'd love the train kufika Kisumu. I'd love to have options. Why? Because at some point it might reach a level where Kenyans are like, you know what, I don't need to be on the road. Wacha niingie hivi. Then pia yo train wakiamua ianze kumove goods and services, especially if it's moving from Mombasa to Malaba. You can try and imagine how many trucks it's going to get off the road. And with those trucks, what's going to happen? A lot of deaths are going to be avoided. Najua, because trucks in Kenya are known to come to your lane and be like, ikonene, atujali. So there's a lot that, yes, I'll say this, I'm skeptical, but I'm not criticizing. So iya kibonga na bonga jua as opposition
will want you to believe that our economy is going in the wrong direction.
The president had earlier hinted that the vision to move Kenya to a first world status will take a 30-year period and complete by 2055.
That's another thing stakagi kusikia. I don't want any Kenyan president to give me a 30-year plan. Just give me a maximum 10-year plan. Show me what you can do in 5 and do your part. Then after doing, respectfully, fuck off. Yes, leave the next person to come. Akitaka kuturudisha chini, aturudishe. But don't give me a 30-year plan. That's scary. That's nah. Especially after seeing what's happening in TZ, I don't need a 30-year plan. Give me a plan. Give me, this is what you can achieve. And this is where I'm going to leave the next person to push us to this other level. That's what I want to hear. But yes, after watching the State of the Nation address, Ruto knows how to speak. And he knows how to promise. But the question is, will it be implemented? Because another thing that he said, I think ilikuwa ni saizi cancer treatments zitakuwa covered from 500,000 to 10,000 to 800,000 shillings. And I remember like msewa SHA alini challenge, because I see a lot of people saying SHA is not working, SHA is not working. I was actually challenged and I'm supposed to move niende kwa ground and find out for myself. I've not done that and I apologize. Another thing that I've not done, even vile tulikuwa na umse naitwa ilikuwa Itumbi, alisema that even that's how confident he is with that is the government would be ready to pay. Mi unajuaga, mi kuna soja mingi na mimi, because I'll sit down here with a guest and then I go and find out that the guest is a conman. I'll come back here and say the guest is a conman just because mesit na wewe haimaanishi anything. So with the same breath, if I was to go and find out SHA is not working, just because I sat down here with the SHA chairman, I'll still come and tell you it's not working. just because I sat with Itumbi, I still tell you it doesn't work. So that won't change my opinion in any way. So I think that's one of the things tutafanya 2026. Mina Ian, tunataka kwanza kudo a lot of these ground movements and see what is happening and what's not happening. So yes, but yes, that was the president. That was the State of the Nation address. And let's wait and see where will we be in the next 2 years, because the next 2 years will be critical. If this thing anasema ya 2026 wanaanza kutengeneza hizi barabara, how far will it be, the dual, and how impactful will it be when it comes to making people who want to give him a second term to give him a second term, and people who want him gone to get him gone. You'll have to wait and see. And so yeah, that was the State of the Nation address. And yeah, sijui kama Wicknell Chivayo bado iko Kenya, but hiyo raya isiyo ya kawaida. Sijui kama inaweza kaa chini na podcast. Unajua ni raya inatembeaga tu ikipatiana do. Sasa kama hapa join baki imeniachia tu kadhaa hivi tu niambie iko nene. Alafu the next thing one nimekuja Wicknell Chivayo si mbaya. Ni wale wamemzunguka. Iko nene.